So before we start, major trigger warning, mention of suicide, body hate, breakdowns, basically anything you can think of I'm going to talk about. So if any of that is even slightly triggering, I definitely recommend you guys get up, leave the room. These are definitely things that are hard to talk about, but things that need to be talked about. And the fact that we are raising awareness for mental health, and that's what tonight is about. So without further ado, here we go. So I'm Tori. I'm a second-year sociology student here at UOttawa, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2 when I was just 16 years old. The diagnosis came as no surprise. It was something that I was almost longing for. My entire life, at least ever since I can remember, when I was about 10, 11 years old, things started falling apart. I remember having such weird days where I felt like I was unstoppable. I was this goddess. I remember calling myself a princess, that I was perfect, that there was nothing that I could possibly do that could go wrong. I had a million ideas. I wanted to start every single project you could ever think of. I wanted to be a million different things, and it was ambitious, almost too ambitious. And I didn't realize that it was dangerous. I didn't realize that it was abnormal. I just knew that it was part of my life. And there were days where I just didn't want to be near anybody. I didn't really want to go to school. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. But at the time, my dad was sick with stage 4 gallbladder cancer, and most people just shoved it off and said, "You're sad." Fast forward a few years, being 16, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I need a new set of counselors. I need someone I can talk to. I need someone who will listen, just anybody who will hear me out. And I finally found someone. He was an amazing psychiatrist back home. He sat me down. He asked me hundreds of questions. We had checklists upon checklists. I was there for at least a good 2 hours, and he just sat and stared at me and he said, "I know what's wrong, but I never want to tell you that there's something wrong with you. I want to tell you that there's something about you that's different, and I want you to use it in the best way that you can." And that day was the day that I realized there's hope. And sometimes it's almost like it's not there, but I like to remind people that you don't lose hope, you just lose sight of it. He called in my mom into the consultation room, and he said, "Look, this is what I found, this is the diagnosis I can give." And although we cried, lots and lots of tears, it was almost like a saving grace. There was an answer. I can't sit here and pretend to tell you what I feel, because some days I don't even know. It's a struggle of waking up and not really understanding how this day is going to go, because you can start one way and end a different way, and you have no idea what's going to happen in between. I don't control how my brain works, but what I do control is how it affects my life. Coming to university has been nothing but a real struggle, to be honest. Before coming to university, I had my first suicide attempt in June of 2018. High school had just ended. A 5-year relationship I was in had just ended. Friends that I thought I had were no longer by my side. I had people I knew commit suicide within the past 6 months. Father's Day passed by, and not having my dad was and is difficult every single day. My mom and I weren't on good terms, so it really just felt like everything was falling apart. But yeah, it did. And I didn't really have anybody to go to, and I didn't feel like I had myself. I didn't know who I was in this moment. I didn't know what I was living for. I ended up in the hospital, and I am so grateful that I ended up in the hospital and not 6 feet under. It made me realize that I did really want to go to school, that I did want to do something with my life. Even though your success in life is not measured by what you accomplish in school, but it was one of my goals to get here. I wanted there to be more to my story than just that. I came to university, and that's sort of when everything was spiraling all over again, because I had no one here. I didn't know anybody, I had no friends. It was a very strange place. I live in Burlington, Ontario, so quite a few hours away. I have no family other than my mom, so it was very lonely. I had no one to watch me, no one to see how I reacted to things, no one to tell me I wasn't eating enough, or eating too much, or sleeping properly, or dedicating way too much time to things that didn't really matter, or not dedicating enough time to myself. I had none of that. I had to learn how to live on my own and how to regulate myself, which was something that I had never really experienced before, and it was hard. It was really hard. Fast forward to second semester of first year, things got a lot better. I got my GPA up, I didn't land on probation like I thought I would. I was dancing, I had my recital, I was working and having fun. I was part of a few clubs here and there, so it was a whole lot better. My transition was past its rocky patch, and I was really grateful for that. The summer, though, was not good. That is when I really realized that something had been going on that I hadn't really paid attention to. All of my first year of university, I really hated myself. There was nothing about me that I liked. There was nothing about me that I was proud of. There was nothing about me that I could say, damn, you go girl. Nothing. And I realized that that was manifesting as trying to make myself perfect. I wanted to get the best grades. I wanted to look a certain way. I wanted to act a certain way. I wanted to be it, whatever it is, which is this unachievable, imaginative sort of figure that I had that I was really longing for. I hated myself for it. I was like, you're disgusting, you're fat, you're ugly. Stuff that I've been trained to believe for the entirety of my life by people who don't know shit about me. But it's just what I chose to believe. Then come September, I was still struggling. I didn't know that I could tackle a second year, but I told my mom, I'm gonna do my best and I'm gonna try. But a week in, it was all too much for me, and there was my second suicide attempt. The worst part about it was I did make it to the other side, but without all of these people who I thought were real, were genuine, and they weren't. None of them were. The unfortunate part was that 3 days later, I got an email from Housing Services saying that we needed to have a meeting. When I met with them, they asked me how I was doing and how I felt that my experience in residency was going so far this year. Res was like, great, so we'll come up with some options and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Tomorrow was Friday the 13th, not to be superstitious, but like super unlucky. I was sitting in the room with them while they told me that the only option for me was to leave. There was no option. They told me I had to be out in 3 days. My mom and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, sorry, what? So after bargaining with them, they said, okay, we'll be generous and we'll give you 3 business days. So I found something, but unfortunately I couldn't move in until mid-October, so I was homeless for a month. They actually offered me a room in Thompson, one of the emergency rooms, after I begged them for it. When they said, okay, sure, and they showed it to me, They were being super passive aggressive the entire time. So I took my mom and I walked out and I was like, we're done. I was so voiceless in this situation. There was nothing I could do. And it was terrible. I can't describe exactly how I felt in that moment, except for shocked, humiliated. They were condescending. It was just so much all at once, and I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to feel. My experience at UWattawa for the past 2 years has taught me is that they are not on our side. They do not truly support students and show no intention of helping us succeed. School is probably the biggest stressor that any student has. And I thought that it would only make sense if it was also the biggest supporter. But unfortunately, that's not the case here at UWattawa. So what I want you to take away from this video is that we need to stand together in solidarity because we are all that we have. And we will make changes together.